Impressed myself with all the speakers, everybody, our brothers and sisters too, in their own their country, they're talking on behalf of their country too. Especially Valentine's, I could identify with that story of him and his father, because the same thing happened with my family down home. There's a similar story of my father with his father, and being allowed to take hold of the boat coming across the Southport bar, and the boat could have turned over, and he was allowed to, but they were watching him and keeping an eye on him, and it was sort of like a rite of passage, so I really appreciated that story. But the only thing, look, I want to say is that from everything I've heard, to me, I haven't got a law background at all, but it just seems like the law, Western law, is weak and can't do very much, because it's almost like it's a captive of hierarchies, captive of corporations, and we can only do so much. Ordinary people can only do so much. Definitely not the Indigenous peoples anywhere in the world for that matter, but especially here in this country, where sort of, native title, people have, heard enough about native title, and I think along those same lines that it's completely useless. Not to say, those people who have had their claim accepted and so on, that's okay. But I have to say that I'm for some kind of political will being shown by everybody. They have, governments and corporations have political power, but they don't have any will to do anything on anybody else's behalf except their own. But we can have political will, I think, and Aboriginal people themselves, our own mob. This conversation will be going on for some time to come about sovereignty, about treaties and so on, but we'll work something out. But all in all, the whole community, the whole population of this country, you have to determine what kind of, Australia is only a work in progress, not even 300 years old. And we're a mob who actually ran a country. We ran the whole country in our own way. And far longer than most people in the world, actually, for that matter. So somehow political will has to raise its head in a really, blunt, obvious way, with anything to do with climate change, with all the issues to do with what we were talking about today. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm starting to rant. So I'll leave it there. Yeah. Thank you.
To follow from Mary, I want to say that Mary has brought many things to my life, and this is not about what Mary and I think, and it's not really about what any of us as humans think. It's about us waking up and feeling and knowing the connections that are real, that have always been real for us from, as Anne Paulina said, it's immeasurable from the first sunrise, and to understand that those connections are real and they are here today and they are forever, and that it's the end of the day, and this is exhausting, it's very exhausting. And again, I appreciated the apology of standing up and saying, I'm sorry. And we need to look at what that means when we say, I'm sorry. Not in the kind of tokenistic, patronising way that sorry has been said, but I sort of talk from someone who's been a great influence in my life and has fought for a long time for country, Kevin Buzzacott, who has fought to save the Mound Springs in his country, in the Arabana lands, of being with Kevin when he said sorry, of saying sorry to country, of saying sorry to the old people who many of us never had an opportunity to properly say sorry to, on the killing fields of this continent So in thinking about how we say sorry and what that means is, I think, an important, and I think we can look at and we can subvert the patronising sort of way that has been presented in the past and give it a real force, a real life, a real meaning of what we mean when we say sorry. And there's so much to say sorry about in terms of what is happening across this continent and across the planet. And to say sorry also for, you know, there's been across every presentation an acknowledgement of the first laws. And this is quite a remarkable turn in the face of the history of colonisation and terra nullius and the damage that colonial laws have done and continue to do, not only in non-recognition, but also the actual breaking of law. We don't acknowledge that so many of our laws have been broken and are broken so much of the time on one level, even though they continue. And so I think there's a real need to really have empathy with that and a sense of feeling what that means when we think about how we might say sorry to the great laws of this continent. And as Mary has said, you know, we've been governing this country forever, and that's never acknowledged. And the laws of this place that we live with have kept that balance forever. And it's only a short space of time. It's only just been these few last nearly 300 years where we've lapsed. So I think we need to feel some sense of moving on and uplifting in understanding that this is not an ending, and for us to shift the way we think of being locked into this very Eurocentric way of that this is the end, you know, the Doors song, that this is the end, and move from that. And it's not so much a beginning, but it's a cycle that just continues and goes on. And I think that there's a sense of, you know, a renewal of our own belief systems and spirituality in that, and we can find that in really coming to terms with what this country and what not only the people, but what everything about the natural world of this country represents, whether we acknowledge it or not. It just is. And we're seeing, on a physical level, much decline, and we must act, and we do have an obligation. But what come out of this hearing every case was just great crisis and many, many breaches. But the first case that was presented was that there's still great hope. There's a river system which is, and I'm sorry that you didn't get an opportunity to see the film that Anne Paulina's mob made of the river. That we can always begin to do the right thing, and this is critical. And of all the places that are calling out for us to act properly, to act lawfully, there's this opportunity for us all now to acknowledge that. And this isn't a sermon or preaching to the converted, but I suppose an affirmation to leave on in terms of being uplifted with so much work that needs to be done by all of us in a good way. Thank you.
I just want to make 2 or 3 comments about some common themes that I've heard from the case studies that's been presented today that speak to the limitations of our current legal and decision-making systems. And the first one, I think, is a very obvious one, that the scale of our decision-making is just completely out of touch with the scale at which our ecosystems operate. We heard about the Great Artesian Basin, the Great Barrier Reef, our extraordinary forested landscapes, and they're connected over vast geographic distances, and they're also connected through processes that operate over vast scales of time, or multiple scales of time. Yet we're always being asked to make decisions very quickly, and we have really in ignorance of what the long-term accumulated impacts are. And it's also clear that our legal system also requires that we labour under a system where it's assumed the burden of proof lies with the ecosystem protector to demonstrate that significant harm will not occur from what the legal system sees, or our economic system sees, as just a marginal impact of one additional development activity. And it's only in a very small number of specific circumstances that can ever be shown. But there's a number of documents, the Earth Charter and the principles for the rule of environmental law have suggested we reverse the onus of proof, so that the burden lay with the developer to demonstrate that activities and measures will in fact not undermine the protection and restoration of ecosystem integrity, and that it will in fact sustain, not undermine, the resilience of socio-ecological systems. I think my final comment is to do with climate change. In many respects, and we're talking about human-forced climate change, from burning fossil fuel and the emissions from deforestation and degradation. It does change many things, and all the major legal instruments that we talked about today, the EPBC Act and the regional forest agreements and most of the key state statutes were all developed before climate change was really the problem that it was today. And clearly we have an environmental emergency when we look at the Great Barrier Reef. We have an environmental emergency. It's what a speaker the other day referred to in hospitals. It's called code blue. When someone has a heart attack, it's a code blue. That's how significant, urgent the problem is in the Great Barrier Reef, and that's being catalysed. That's being driven by climate change. But none of our law, our current legal system, has been framed to enable us to respond to it. So climate change alone is a great challenge to our legal system. So finally, I just wanted to mention that we have a number of really important declarations and documents that contain important ethical and legal principles that we can draw upon when we're thinking about how we can, change or transform our governance systems. And they've all been mentioned today: the Universal Declaration on the Rights of Mother Earth, the Earth Charter, the Principles for the Rule of Environmental Law, and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. These are all soft law documents. They all contain very well thought through and articulated ethical and legal principles, and I would encourage people to familiarise themselves with them and make use of them. And also, I'd like to thank everyone who spoke today. I was deeply moved to hear the direct personal stories and also the very clear way that the various forms of evidence, including the scientific evidence, was presented to us. So thanks to everyone for what clearly was a huge amount of work that had been put into the preparation of these cases. It was very much appreciated on our part.
Thank you, Brendan. Can I ask you to make your comments?
Well, this has been a unique hearing, and I feel privileged to have been here today to experience the ambience created, the knowledge gained, and the camaraderie expressed. We've received credible and convincing testimony that there are governments, state and federal, and institutions, international and especially megacorporations, but also educational systems in this country that have totally and in great measure intentionally betrayed the Australian people. The first people, first, and savagely, but all of us along the way. I think of our collective work today as if it were a preliminary investigation of crimes committed by governments and institutions against nature and consequently against the people. I have certainly found probable cause to indict them. I would hope that as a result of the information received today in our discussions, a subsequent People's Tribunal hearing would be organized to ensure that the violation of the rights of nature and the correlative rights of peoples will be formally recognized and condemned. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to my fellow tribunal members and to everyone who spoke today, but especially to everyone who attended, and it's such a great attendance to come for all of us to bear witness to what we've heard today. And it is exhausting and it is vicariously traumatic and just traumatic generally, really, hearing all of this stuff. I think what we're witnessing is a multi-dimensional governance crisis of existential proportions. And you know, we see it in, I strongly endorse everything else my colleagues have said, and I will not be long. But being part the eternal optimist, I do want to end on a note in terms of looking at that. Now, we've been asked to bear witness to ecological devastation in an ever-expanding extinction crisis that is enveloping us, our commons and our commonwealth. We've heard excellent, comprehensive, holistic, emotionally intelligent, as well as scientifically robust forensic statistical testimony from First Nations peoples, concerned citizens, scientists and lawyers. And as we heard from the Githuba First Nations witnesses, Rob and Gloria Williams, quote, "The time of disrespect, devastation, desecration has to stop." So I'd just like to end very quickly by doing an adaptive quote of the preamble to the Earth Charter, which says, "We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and great promise." And here I digress to paraphrase in poetry. "They're drilling for oil for upfilling their greed, killing us all when they're killing the state of the trees, milling for wood chips and big bank billing for fees. Yeah, they're killing us all when they're killing the reef. Drilling for more ore, stealing the future's needs, vicious villains, blood spilling on life's sacred creed. Land tilling, pesticide, chemicals spilling for greed. They're killing ancient soil and First Nations sacred seed." So to move forward, we must recognise that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny. We must join together and bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice and a culture of peace. Toward this end, it is imperative that we, the peoples of planet Earth, declare our responsibility to one another, to the greater community of life, and recognising legally rights of nature, and to our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for those incredible words, and I'm very pleased to be able to close. So, as the person who was privileged to bring all of this together, I think today was a remarkable beginning. I feel as a European descendant in this country that these kinds of conversations are critical, incredibly overdue, and we have so much to learn and to do that my mind is bulging with the promise of the things that must be done next. In terms of next steps, the Australian Earth Laws Alliance would like to extend an invitation to everyone, the participants, the speakers, people in the audience, anyone who ever connects with this body of work, to turn this space, our special place, into something that is worthy of everybody's efforts and something that can build a better future. I do think that our humble People's Tribunal for the Rights of Nature has something to offer everybody, and I stand or sit before you with great humility and want you to help me and others shape this into something amazing. I personally feel today was incredible. For me to sit and listen to the First Nations people, to lawyers, scientists, activists, people from organisations, it is an absolute privilege to hear what everyone is up to and doing. So, extend an invitation to all of you. AILA is absolutely committed to holding People's Tribunals at least once or twice a year, but we want to respond and evolve and thrive into the future like a natural ecosystem, and we will respond to what people are concerned about and where they want to be. I also extend an invitation to you all to shift and play with the procedure of what we do. Today was a very deliberate, concerted effort to meet in this place, because I thought it was great to start the way we intend to proceed, which is challenging a legal system that's not working for the people and it's not working for the land. But in the future, I would love to see our tribunals march across deserts, sit under trees, sit in the sandy beds of rivers, put our feet in the water, hang out and have a yarn. Okay, so I'm extending an invitation to all of you to do that with me. Shoot us an email, stay in touch, join the membership list. I think this is a really special and important space. So, statements and information, we're going to pull everything together from today and put it all together in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And anyone who's on the mailing list for AILA will be advised when it's all available. I totally appreciate Gil's sentiments that I think we have pulled together a body of material that is phenomenal. It proves that the rights of nature are being violated systemically and have been for many hundreds of years in this country. First laws have been violated since the British invaded, and I do believe that the burgeoning crime of ecocide will come to fruition very soon, and we will use all of these new mechanisms to find new ground to build a better future. So, in terms of wrapping up, I would just like to say thank you. I have nothing more to say. I'd like to just officially close with a bunch of thank yous. Thank you to everybody on this panel. It's been a really long day, and it's just been awesome to be here with you. So thank you to our panel. Thank you to all of our speakers and participants. Some of these people are so busy. The fact that they have used their own resources to come be with us, to put up with weird phone calls from me at strange hours of the day, Facebook messages, carrier pigeons, any way I could get them. Thank you to all of our speakers and participants, please. I also want to thank all of my incredibly hard-working volleys today. So I'm going to list a few of them. First of all, David Street volunteered as a student to come and video all of this material for you and for us. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. To the amazing young'uns who've been floating around in their AILA t-shirts, everybody loves the AILA t-shirts and everybody loves you. Thank you very much. I'd like to give a very special thank you to 3 men who have put up with me for a very long time on stuff, but particularly since about 7 o'clock this morning when things weren't working and I was having a stress attack. Luke, Stephen and Greg. Where are you, Greg? Oh, there you are, darling. Thank these guys. They're awesome. And I think, with permission, we're finished.
It's called.
Yay! Sing a song? You all want me to sing a song, don't you? No. You giving me?
So I wanted to maybe take over from Michelle and get the last word. Maybe I'll manage it. But as you've probably guessed, this is not my fruit and vegetable shopping here. This is something for Michelle. And I know that, you know, this wonderful day, this inspiring day with so many excellent people, stories, connections being made. This was her inspired idea, and she not only conceptualised the day, but she spent many long hours, no doubt enjoyable networking with all of you to make it be the successful day it was. So could you please give a big hand for Michelle for not just today, but the 2 days before. Because it wasn't just today, this wonderful Rights of Nature Tribunal. There were 2 days of Australian Earth Law Association conferences, Thursday, Friday. So I'll just present Michelle with some small tokens of our esteem, a book on a controversial legal issue. She likes to read that stuff at night. And a card signed by most of you. If you haven't signed it, come on up. I'm sure she'd love you to score your name. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, everybody.